What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy and welcome to another FPL video for the pre-season 18-19. We are looking at cheap forwards today, so this is any player priced at 6.5 million or less in the forward category. Got about 5 players to go through, then a few other players to talk about just briefly at the end. Little disclaimer, at the time of recording this video, I am doing it in advance, so make sure I've got content out on the channel when I'm not around to actually record it. So if any of these players have gone and got injured or there's any big team news, transfers and stuff like that, do apologise, but hopefully the info will still be useful for you. So let's just jump straight into it and take a look at the first forward. So we'll start off with Charlie Austin. This is a man who I once said if he was playing for his team and fit, he'd be nailed in my FPL team. And having done a bit of research about his kind of returns per minute, I think I definitely stand by that. So we'll start off with the fixtures for Southampton. Burnley at home, Everton away, Leicester at home, so they're the opening 3. Then we move on to Palace away, Brighton at home and Liverpool away. So a mixed bag, not the perfect set of fixtures by any means. Burnley is usually a tough game to get more than kind of 1 or 2 goals in. Everton and Leicester on their day are going to be tough fixtures as well. But I think at home, Southampton could do well. They're going to want to start the season off at a quick pace because of how badly they did last year. We don't know if Mark Hughes is going to turn it around yet. We'll have to wait and see. But the opening 3 fixtures are okay. They could be a bit better. Crystal Palace away, again, that's going to be a little bit of a tough fixture. Then Brighton at home is nice. And Liverpool away is probably going to be tough for Southampton. So it's a mixed bag. I'd say the home games are pretty good. The away games are likely to be tough. So I don't know if we want to overload on Southampton players, but perhaps Charlie Austin at 6 million could be an option. Now, looking at his minutes played last year, only played just over 1,000 minutes, but he still got 7 goals and 1 assist in that time. So while that was only 72 points, he actually returns a goal or assist every 128 minutes, which is the best out of all of the forwards we're going to look at today. Now, I thought maybe that was just a one-off. Obviously, he only played limited amount of minutes, but I looked at the previous 3 seasons he's had. Now, one of those seasons he barely played any minutes. I think it was like 200 or something like that. So I didn't really look at the returns in that one. But in the other 2 seasons, he got something like a return every 117 minutes. And a return every 133 minutes. So he's always in and around 117 to 133, which is just over 1 game to get a return. So you're looking at a player that can easily get a return 1 in every 2 games. Obviously, assists are worth slightly less, but only 1 point for a forward. We want the goals for the bonus points, of course, but it's not too much in it points-wise. So if he can get you a return every other game for 6 million, it looks like a really good buy. Now, the problem obviously is fitness. Can he stay fit? And also, will he be the #1 choice? They've got Gabbiadini there. We don't know if they're going to make any more transfers. So I've got my eye on Charlie Austin. If I think he's going to start game week 1 in the team as the main striker at Southampton, I really think he's going to be in my team. There's always the cheap forward versus premium defender argument, which I've done in another video. But for me, Charlie Austin, 6 million, if he's nailed, he's going to be in my team. Great minutes per return. And just a player that's not very exciting to watch, not very skillful, but he just scores goals when he plays. We'll go for Perez next at Newcastle. Even though Newcastle's fixtures are awful to start, I had to put him in this list because for the 6.5 million strikers or below, he was the top overall scorer for the players that played last season. So he got a total of 124 points, which was more than any other player who's currently priced at 6.5 or below. But when you look at the opening fixtures, they're really tough. They've got top 6 teams, Spurs, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal. And then even the away games they've got, which slightly easier teams, aren't great. Palace are going to be pretty decent, I'd say, defensively again. And Cardiff, okay, they're a newly promoted team. We'd expect them to concede some goals. But early on in the season, I do worry about just how kind of resilient they'll be, up for it. They'll be fully fit, ready to go into the season. I think that'll be a tough game. Now, going forward, maybe you want to consider Perez. I like the fact that Rafa's at the helm, obviously a really good manager for Newcastle. So Perez could be an option going forward. 177 minutes per return isn't bad. Again, that's a return more than once every 2 games. That's a pretty decent return. He got 8 goals and 6 assists last year, so should be good again for this season. But I just think when it comes to the opening fixtures, they're so bad, you're probably not going to look at him. But maybe going forward into the rest of the season, he could be one to get in when Newcastle's fixtures basically clear up. So other than Charlie Austin, Chris Wood's probably my next go-to target in this price bracket of the 6.5 or less forwards. Taking a look at the away games first, they got Southampton an opener, then Fulham and Wolves. So we don't know what the newly promoted sides are going to be like. Will they try and keep it tight? Will they just go all out at the start of the season and just see if they can pick up some couple of wins? Will that leave matches open? We don't know yet, but as far as away fixtures go, it doesn't get too much better than what Burnley's are. And the home fixtures are really nice as well. Watford and Bournemouth at home are really good, especially Bournemouth. I always target them for goals. I think they're not very good at keeping out goals. They don't keep many clean sheets. So Bournemouth a really nice fixture, and Watford should be good too. The Man United home is the only one that kind of stands out as a tricky fixture. So Chris Wood himself, 1,600 minutes last year, 10 goals, 1 assist, which was a return every 147 minutes. So slightly worse than Charlie Austin, but not by a long way. And again, a player that gets more than 1 return every 2 games. So if he can keep that up this year, he's going to get a really good return for you. I think 104 points, he can definitely better that if he gets a whole season. Obviously, we'll have to see how fitness goes. The only thing that kind of is good and bad about Burnley is we don't know what Barnes and Vokes are going to be like. Will Chris Wood be first choice? We imagine so. He's the highest priced player forward for Burnley, so FPL thinks so too. But how will Barnes and Vokes fit in? Will they steal points, etc.? And then Burnley start their season a little bit earlier because of the Europa League. So that's good because they'll have match fitness quicker, or you'd hope they'd have a bit of sharpness quicker. But bad because we don't know whether players are going to get rotated. We saw with Liverpool last year when they had a game beforehand to qualify for the Champions League. Salah played in that and then was rested for game week 2 to make sure that he was fully fit and going for the Champions League game. So we don't know how seriously Burnley are going to take Europa League. You'd imagine that they're not going to get into Europe many more times in the near future, so they might just go for it. So Chris Wood, you could see him benched in game week 2, which would be a shame because it's Watford at home. But if it looks like he's going to keep playing, I think for his returns, he can keep that up this year. I think he looks like he's going to be first choice striker, and they've got a really nice set of opening fixtures. I'd definitely be looking at him for 6.5 million. Next up is the first of 2 Bournemouth forwards in the lineup. We're going for Callum Wilson first. We'll go through the fixtures. So Bournemouth's opening game is pretty good. Cardiff at home. Don't want to keep repeating myself. Obviously, we don't quite know what the newly promoted teams will be like. But I think Cardiff at home is a pretty good one to start. We know that Bournemouth like to go for it and attack. And then the other ones at home, Everton and Leicester. So again, on their day, they're 2 tough teams. But I think the way Bournemouth play, they do like to attack and go for the win. I think they'll do okay in those home games. And then away one's pretty tricky. West Ham away, Chelsea away. Although Wilson did score at Stamford Bridge last year, so he has got previous for that. And then Burnley away, again, a team that I don't really like to target for too many goals because they usually keep it tight. So Bournemouth fixture's okay, but again, I just don't see how you could go for Wilson when maybe you're looking at Charlie Austin or Chris Wood if they're going to start instead. But perhaps an option further down the line. So 198 minutes per return for him, 8 goals and 2 assists last year. So he's getting a return just outside once every 2 games, so pretty good. The only thing I will say about Callum Wilson is he's been very unlucky with injuries. And I feel like on his day, he's one of the better cheap strikers in the league. I think he can do better than that 198 minutes return. Potentially could even match the likes of Chris Wood, Perez and Austin. So if he can get a good pre-season behind him, stay injury free, I think he could be one of the top scorers in that bracket. So keep an eye on him. I don't think many people are going to start with him, although the Cardiff at home fixture is very nice. But maybe one for further down the line in this season. We'll have to see how he and Bournemouth go. So Josh King is the last on this list of 5, the second Bournemouth forward. Won't go through the fixtures again, already mentioned them for Wilson. But looking at him last season, the good thing about him is he's pretty much nailed when he's fit. 2,450 minutes last year, but only 8 goals, 4 assists, so a return every 204 minutes. So he's the worst on the list from that regard. But like Wilson, I feel like he's better than that. The season before last, he had a phenomenal season where pretty much everyone had him in his team. He was so cheap and returning every single week at one point. So 110 points last year. I feel like he can definitely improve on that. The good thing is as well, he should be on penalties. Don't think Defoe's going to get many starts, and I think he's ahead in the pecking order between him and Wilson. And he's nailed because if he's not playing up front, he can play in that number 10 position just behind. So yeah, when he's fit, you tend to see him in the team. I think if I was picking between the two, the 0.5 price difference makes it tough because Wilson's 6 and King's 6.5. If they were the same price, I'd definitely go straight for King. But I do think he's worth that 0.5 premium, especially on penalties. And he's nailed, and he tends to have a better injury record than Wilson as well. So King, good option. But again, because of the fixtures, I'm not sure I'd be going straight for him. I'd still be looking at the likes of Wood and Austin if they're definitely going to start ahead of him. So just a few other options to mention. I obviously don't want to go through every single forward that's 6.5 million or less because that's a really long list. But Glenn Murray, put him in because he was the second highest scorer in this bracket last year, just behind Perez. Actually did really well. I probably didn't give him enough credit last year. Thought because of his age that he wouldn't do too well. But again, I do think age is going to be a problem sooner or later. He's going to turn 35 in September, which is pretty old in football in terms of the Premier League. It's a tough old slog. But pretty good from headers and set pieces and stuff like that. So with Gross in the team, he could bang in a few more goals. Got 12 last year. I just think there's much better options than him currently. So I'd avoid him, but I can see why people might want to look at him. Benteke, I just wonder if he's ever going to get back on form and be the player that we know he can be. Obviously, he did really well when he came onto the scene at Aston Villa. He actually did okay in the matches he played in at Liverpool, but didn't really play too often. And last year, got injured for Palace. And basically, when Zaha came into the team and played up front, Palace looked like a stronger team. So I think it probably, if he's fit, because right now he picked up a knock pre-season, but if he's fit to start, it does look like they're going to start with him or Sorloth up front and probably play Zaha wide, which I think is probably a little bit of a mistake given how well Zaha did last year. You could look at Benteke, but again, 6.5 million, I just think there's better options. Welbeck, don't laugh at me. Obviously, never really smashed it in the league, never scored like double-digit hauls too often, but that's because he's used a bit part player. But there's a lot of rumours going around that Emery wants to get rid of him, trim down the Arsenal squad. There was rumours linking him to Everton. We don't know if he'll go there. Obviously, Tozen's there as well, so will he jump straight into the number 9 position? We're not too sure. But if he could get in at a lower, like kind of mid-table club, as the number 1, as someone that's going to start week in, week out, he could offer value. We've seen him score goals in the past when he's played and got, you know, limited minutes, to be fair. I think at 6.5 million, he could be a punt depending on where he goes. So keep an eye out on the transfer rumours for Welbeck. And please don't laugh at me too much. And lastly, just to mention Barnes, could have been Vokes here as well. Obviously, they could take potentially minutes off of Chris Wood or just steal points, maybe get the goals instead. Barnes did really well for Burnley last year, especially towards the end of the season. I had him in my team. So one to worth mentioning and to look out for. But I think Chris Wood is going to be the main man there. So that's the other options to look at. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's other forwards in this price bracket that we should be looking at. I've not mentioned the guys from the kind of newly promoted teams because I just worry they're going to struggle for goals. And I think it's probably better to go for tried and trusted players that have played in the Premier League before and shown they can do it. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and found it useful. Let me know in the comments below. 1, are you looking to get a cheap striker in, or are you playing more of a 3-5-2? And if you are going to get one of these cheap strikers in, who are you going to go for? Or is it just worth paying a tiny bit extra and getting into that 7 million bracket with the likes of Tozen, Arnautovic and Zaha? Personally, the way I'm looking at my team right now and the structure I've got in place, I'm probably going to need one of these players. And I will stand by the fact that if Charlie Austin is the number 1 striker there and he's fit, he will be in my team at 6 million. I just think he just scores goals. It's what he does. It's not exciting. It's not pretty to watch necessarily, but he's brilliant at doing the thing that strikers need to do, which is score goals. But we'll see what happens. Game week 1's still a little bit away. Like I said, I recorded this video in advance, so apologies if any of this info is now incorrect because they're injured or they've been transferred away or someone new's come in and going to take their place. If you did enjoy the video, hit the thumbs up. Always appreciated. Give it a like. Subscribe if you're new around here and hit the bell so you're notified for the next video. And all my live streams, which will start up again right at the start of August. Obviously follow me on social media to know when that is. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you later. Cheers for watching, everyone.